Today, we're diving into a topic that's been making headlines for years: NATO funding and burden sharing. Specifically, we're tackling the question: did NATO members, and more importantly, did they pay their fair share, as the US, especially under President Trump, often claimed? Let's break it down. First off, let's clear up a common misconception. When we talk about NATO funding, we're not talking about countries writing big checks directly to NATO headquarters. It's a bit more nuanced than that. The core of NATO funding lies in national defense spending. Each member country is expected to invest in its own military capabilities. And here's the key: NATO has set a guideline for members to spend at least 2% of their gross domestic product, or GDP, on defense. This isn't just a suggestion. It's a commitment to collective security. Now, yes, NATO does have a common budget for things like its administration, certain operations, and infrastructure. But that's a relatively small portion compared to the national defense spending we just talked about. So, where does the controversy come in? The US has long argued that there's an imbalance in burden sharing. Historically, the US has shouldered a significantly larger portion of the defense burden than many other NATO members. This perceived unfairness has been a point of contention for decades. President Trump really amplified this issue. He repeatedly emphasized that many NATO allies weren't paying their fair share, pushing them to meet that 2% GDP target. His rhetoric was often direct and forceful, leading some to believe he was demanding direct payments. But as we've seen, the focus was on national defense spending. So why the discrepancy in descriptions? Why they're not paying money versus the 2% target debate? Well, it comes down to simplification and political messaging. The phrase "not paying money" is a simplified way to explain that funds aren't directly transferred to NATO for the majority of the military spending. The 2% target became the central focus because it's a measurable metric for commitment. And let's be honest, the way this issue was framed was heavily influenced by political messaging. Trump's emphasis on not paying was a way to drive home his point about the perceived unfairness. To summarize, the US, especially during the Trump administration, pushed NATO allies to increase their national defense spending to meet the 2% GDP guideline. While NATO members don't primarily pay money directly to NATO, the debate centered on national defense contributions and the perceived imbalance in burden sharing. It's about ensuring everyone is contributing their part to the collective security of the alliance.